What is going on YouTube? Gabs here and welcome to the 30th episode of the Tech Pills weekly live stream. Alright, let's jump right to the first news of today. The famous wallpaper app Hydropaper that allows you to set different wallpapers for each monitor, done by myself, has received a new feature. It's still not publicly available. It's in the repository, it's in the master branch, but it's still not released. I'm talking about different wallpaper modes. So let's actually show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, I have to wait a second. So what's new is this was actually quite a requested feature, and it was requested like I think a full year ago at this point. So let me actually transition to screen and let's make this 2x scaling so you can see better. All right, so this is Hydropaper. Lets you set different wallpapers for each monitor. This is the first monitor, the second monitor. You probably know this already if you've been following me for a while. And what's new is this button here that allows you to set a different mode for your wallpaper. It's still not 100% yet. That's part of the reason why it's not being released at this point. So you can use like the normal mode. The default mode is zoom, so that like if you have a wallpaper like this one that has a different aspect ratio, it will just stretch out the wallpaper to fill your screen. And if you use something like fit with a black background or a blurred background, what happens is the wallpaper doesn't get stretched. Instead, it uses the like default aspect ratio, and like as a background you can use either blur or a black background. So this was quite a requested feature. As you see, it's working, and center does practically the same thing, but if the image is smaller than the screen, it doesn't resize it to match like the height or width of the wallpaper. So there's that. This has been quite interesting to implement. It's been quite easy, and it paved the road for having like more wallpaper effects in the future in Hydropaper. It's still something that I'm thinking about. I'm not 100% sure I want to implement this, but if I want to do something like blurring the whole wallpaper, or adding like a contrast filter or a sepia or a black and white filter, it's actually going to be pretty easy to do now that I have this interface in place. And of course you can do the same thing for the other wallpaper. And I want to release this, but I want it to be more feature complete than it is right now. To be able to release it, I want to add this feature in the command line options as well, because many people actually use Hydropaper, I think, from the command line, like with scripts for setting different wallpapers depending on the time. So I want my users to be able to use these features with the command line mode before I actually make a new release. So that's about it. I just wanted to show you the progress I made on this little thing, and let me know what you think. If you think this is useful, if you would like to see something different, perhaps. I'm obviously open to any kind of critiques or suggestions. If you want to try it out, you can just go to the repository. It's gitlab.gnome.org/gabmus/hydropaper, and you can just download the latest Flatpak build from the GitLab jobs. So Just go ahead, download it, install it, try it out, and let me know what you think. All right, let's move on to the next news of today. System76 launches a new monster laptop called the Bonobo Workstation. So this laptop isn't really a laptop. It's more like an all-in-one desktop that happens to fold like in a clamshell and has somewhat of a battery. It's based on the 10th gen Intel Comet Lake overclockable desktop CPUs. So you heard me right. This doesn't use laptop CPUs. This uses desktop CPUs. And it has different options. It starts from the 6-core 12-thread i5, the 8-core 16-thread i7, or the 10-core and 20-thread i9. So quite a beast, even with like the lowest tier option. 6-core and 12 threads on something that resembles a laptop is no joke. And again, these are desktop CPUs, so they're quite more powerful than like the laptop counterparts. As for the graphics card, it has you have a choice of an NVIDIA RTX 2060, 2070 Super, or 2080 Super. The RAM goes up to 128 gigabytes at 3200 megahertz, running in quad channel. The screen is 17-inch, so it's quite a big boy. 1080p for 144 Hz or 4K 60 Hz, depending on your needs. So it's nice that they gave you this option. So if you want high refresh rate, you can go with that. Or if you prefer to have high resolution, you can just go with the 4K option. It also has a whopping 4 M.2 slots. 2 to 3 can be configured to use PCI Express, so NVMe storage, and 1 to 2 can be used for SATA NVMe storage. And it also has an addressable RGB keyboard, so that's nice. And the price, considering what this machine is capable of, it's not too bad. It starts at $2,400 US. Of course, it goes up depending on how you configure it. So it's not really your typical laptop, as I already said, and it's again not really even a laptop, but more like, yeah, of an all-in-one PC. It's a great machine overall, but I have some concerns. My biggest concern I have here is the NVIDIA GPU, or the options to only have NVIDIA GPUs. Considering like the type of device, I don't think this is even going to bother like with the NVIDIA Optimus and hybrid graphics that usually is a headache on Linux. System76 historically has been able to make it work pretty decently. Still, you won't have to deal with this stuff on this laptop probably. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't use Optimus because again, it's a desktop CPU. It's already consuming lots of power. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to use the integrated GPU at all. So I think it's just gonna default to the dedicated GPU, and that's it. So again, no effing around with the usual NVIDIA Optimus stuff. For Linux, this is good. But I just can't overlook this. I can't stop saying it. Since I got an AMD GPU on my desktop PC, I can't help but have this sensation of fear towards NVIDIA hardware. It's not really something that I knew about before actually having on my hands a GPU that's not NVIDIA. So once I got my 5700 XT, I understood that the experience I got with my previous history of NVIDIA GPUs was just bad. It's simply not a good experience. The drivers are a proprietary mess. There's no support for Wayland, and even if they work fine, like the GPUs for the first 2 or 3 years, at some point NVIDIA is going to drop support for these cards, and you'll be stuck with an old driver that will keep having trouble trying to make this stupid thing work with newer kernels and software. So, and this is something that I have like hands-on experience with. This happened with the GTX 760, similar to the one that I have on my wall behind here. That one is dead, so that's why it's a decoration now. And both a friend of mine and my girlfriend for a while had the 760, like other GTX 760s, and those are pretty decent GPUs for what they are. They're pretty old at this point. Still, they do work fine for the most part. but the drivers, of course, are the legacy ones, because it's not supported anymore. Like the GPU is too old. It's not supported anymore by the mainstream NVIDIA drivers. So you have to use the legacy driver, and it's not a good experience, particularly with newer kernels, with newer software. Vulkan in particular doesn't run very well, if at all, on the older drivers. So I didn't have a good experience with NVIDIA, period. And considering like the amount of power that this PC is capable of, the Bonobo workstation, it's a very powerful machine, and you probably, it's an investment. Even you're probably not going to change it for, I don't know, at least 5 years, in my opinion. And even if you change it, you're probably still gonna have it lying around doing something else. And having like to deal with the legacy drivers, it's not something that you would want for this kind of price point. Besides, again, well in this future, I don't know if in 2 or 3 years Xorg is still gonna be around like in the mainstream. So I don't know. I don't really know where to go with that. NVIDIA needs to get this stuff together, but until they do, I don't think that NVIDIA is a good choice on a Linux laptop or a desktop computer. I still applaud System76 for making such a great and powerful machine with full Linux support, but the GPU choice they've made isn't ideal. It's going to hurt the end user experience, and for the kind of price this retails at, it's really not acceptable. Again, you're probably not going to notice this right away. This is something that you would probably experience like a couple of years down the line. And I just also want to say that this is probably not even System76's fault, but NVIDIA's, because they're the ones that like making the drivers and making the GPUs, and not making the drivers open source like AMD has. And I am pretty sure that there is some technical reason why System76 went this way, and it possibly has to do with the limitations with the kind of ODM machine that they're working with. Because if you didn't know, System76 doesn't make like the hardware themselves. They use ODM laptops. The Thelio, the desktop computer that they have, they make it themselves, but that one is an exception. As for the laptops, again, it's ODM hardware, and they probably have some limitations with what they can do with those machines. They probably have to choose an Intel CPU and an NVIDIA GPU, and it's not really like on a desktop you can just, I don't know, replace the motherboard or buy another GPU and plug it in the PCI Express slot. With laptops, everything is tightly integrated, and you need to have like a motherboard that's designed for that particular chassis, and a GPU that is designed for that particular chassis also. So it's kind of a mess. Still, great machine. I don't know about NVIDIA. If you need like some professional applications that need an NVIDIA GPU, like for example, if you are a CUDA developer, or if you use any software that makes use of CUDA specific acceleration and maybe doesn't have an option for OpenCL, this machine is probably for you. It's practically a no-brainer at this point. If you do need NVIDIA, this is a good machine. This is a good computer to invest on. Still, I hope they will come out at some point with a laptop option that ships with a high-end AMD GPU, as I think that's what makes the most sense on Linux nowadays. Anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. This is not really news again, it's a personal update. I got a new microphone, as you can probably hear by yourself. If you've been following me, you know that my previous microphone, the Behringer C1U that I previously had, broke during the process of moving back to my hometown. And fortunately, my birthday was just around the corner, and thanks to my awesome friends and my girlfriend, of course, I now have this pretty nice microphone. It's the Samson Q2U. It's a dynamic microphone. It's one of those, like, I don't know, stage microphones. It doesn't really look like something you can use like in a studio environment like I'm doing here, recording the Tech Pills bi-weekly live stream. But it actually turns out to be pretty good. Of course, the review will be coming soon. I'm working on that, so stay tuned for it. And I will get into more details about like my feelings about it, how I'm liking it, and the comparison with other microphones and other kinds of microphones. So again, stay tuned for that. Just to give you my first initial 2 cents and impressions on these microphones, on this microphone in particular, it's good. It's very good and it's very accessible. It has a USB interface, and so this makes it practically plug and play on any system. And the sound quality is also very nice. It has good noise rejection. The voice comes out pretty natural. That's all I want to tell you right now. So again, stay tuned for the review. So let's move on to the next news of today. Kdenlive 20.08 is out with many fixes and new features. So this new release of Kdenlive is just huge. Apart from the usual roundup of bug fixes, improvements, all the kind of stuff, there are lots of new features, starting from the interface that got a complete overhaul. The UI is now divided into 5 sections. It kind of reminds me of DaVinci Resolve, if you've ever used or seen that. And yeah, it's kind of inspired from that probably. So these new sections, 5 sections, are logging, editing, audio, effects, and color. So about the logging section, it's probably meant to be used like on larger projects if you want to take notes about a particular clip or something, or notes on the project in general. This is particularly useful, I think, if you're working, if you're like collaborating on a single video with other people. Of course, I'm a one-man show, so I don't have too much use for that particular feature. Still, it's there. So if you're interested in using something like that, there you have it. Of course, this was already available in the previous version of Kdenlive. It was just hidden under I think the clip properties. Most of the things that we'll be talking about the new version of Kdenlive, they were mostly all there already, but they're now more accessible, more discoverable, and most importantly, easier and more convenient to use. So again, nothing particularly new, but the way everything is presented. So it's more of a presentation thing than anything else. So the color section, I really like the new color section. I think it makes a lot of sense. It shows all of the various meters and gauges you may need during color correction, stepping up the entire color correction game in Kdenlive. And it's definitely one of those features that I was really missing in this otherwise great video editor. And I think that I've always done like color correction, color coding in my videos in kind of a random way, not like truly random, but I was just going like by eye and seeing, I don't know, if I liked how it looked with the color correction that I applied, and I was just like looking at the picture and guessing what the right thing to do, in like the right knob to turn was, and it's worked pretty decently up until now. But having like this new feature, I've tried it, you have like a gauge that tells you where the most of the color in the image is, and so you can use the like the lift gamma gain filter, for instance, or other color correction filters in Kdenlive. You can use those to actually tune the color properly and get like a neutral kind of color. And it's the first time that I actually think I got a natural color profile on, particularly on my skin. And yeah, I'm really happy with this new section. I think this is really a great addition to Kdenlive. Again, it's not anything that you couldn't do previously, but it's just a lot more convenient, to the point that I am now able to do proper color correction. Just, you know, for example. And another interesting section is the audio section, and I think this is particularly useful for tuning the volumes of different audio tracks, and probably that's why it's been designed how it's been designed. I mean, this is probably the scope of this new section, and it's not uncommon that I have to like go back and forth tuning the volume of the background music I sometimes use in my videos to get it just right. And with individual track volume meters, it's now measurably easier to do that. And again, this is something that I was previously doing mostly by ear. I just I don't know, chose a like minus 30 dB gain and listen to the track and see and hear how it sounded, and if it was like the music was too overpowering, or if it was too low to the point it was just background noise, something like that. Having like meters, actual meters now that you can use to see the levels of the individual tracks as well as the master track, it really makes a lot of sense, and it makes the audio editing part of video editing a lot easier, I think. So again, another great feature. And the other section that I'm really happy to see is the effect section that can be used to better control the various effects and compositions in the video. Particularly, this is useful for those effects and compositions that have many knobs you can turn, and even more importantly, to manage keyframeable effects and compositions. And that's something that isn't particularly easy to do in Kdenlive, so having this dedicated section for it is probably gonna make it at least a little bit easier, if not, like, I mean, this update, I mean, it's all about it. It's making things easier, making things more streamlined and polished. So again, I think this was another one of those things that was really needed in this video editor. Anyway, it's not easy to go into too much detail with such a complex and featureful piece of software, of course. Suffice to say, I've tried it. I like it. I can tell you it's definitely a huge improvement. And if you want to try it out, you can just go ahead and go to the releases page of Kdenlive, and you can just download the latest app image. Maybe let me know what you think about it. Try it out for yourself and see how it feels. Anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. Again, not really a news or a news point. This is more of something that I want to talk about in the live stream. I kind of had a new idea for a new, better, hopefully, system monitor with separated and efficient plots and GPU monitoring. So if you've used or seen like the Windows 10 system monitor, you know that it's actually pretty decent, particularly compared to previous versions. One thing that I liked in particular was like the grid of plots of graphs that you have, where you see each individual core for your CPU and its usage plotted individually. That's something that I think has really a big use, particularly if you have like one of those new processors. We just talked about like the Bonobo Workstation. The lowest tier option has an i5 that has 6 cores and 12 threads. So having like 12 bar graphs overlapped on top of each other, like it's currently the case with GNOME System Monitor and similar Linux system monitors, it doesn't really make too much sense. And besides, one of those things that I really never liked about system monitors and Linux in general is that drawing and rendering those plots is actually usually pretty resource intensive, and it kind of defeats the point of having like a system resource monitor. If having like the resource monitor open like skews the results of the monitoring, it doesn't really make too much sense, does it? So I thought about it, and I thought, well, I can probably do something better, hopefully. At least I can try. So this is probably a new project that I'm going to tackle myself. I still need to understand how I want to do certain things. But the idea is having a more modern system monitor that gives you like those nice single separated bar graphs, bar plots, showing the single core CPU usage. And one thing that I really want to do, I will at least try to, is having like an efficient way to draw plots. So I'm thinking about doing something with Vulkan, maybe, possibly. Still not sure about that. Of course, this will use more your GPU than does your CPU, so it could make sense, but it would still have some impact on your overall system performance. That's, of course, it will always have an impact on your system performance no matter what you do. It's just all about minimizing that impact as much as possible. So I think I have to figure that out first, and then once I have like a system that I can use to draw efficient bar graphs, bar plots, then I can go ahead and create, I mean, the rest of the application around it. Because making a system monitor, it's actually pretty easy. I've done it several times for different little projects that didn't really have too much like public coverage. Still, again, easy to do. And I just need to figure this thing out. So if you want to give me a hand, if you want to give me a hint or a suggestion on how to draw efficient graphs, just reach out. I don't know, you can leave a comment or leave a message in the chat, or head over onto the Telegram group. You can find the link for the Telegram group in the description, as well as here is this nice QR code on the left of the screen. So guys, this is gonna wrap it up for today's episode of the Tech Pills bi-weekly live stream. I still have to get used to calling it bi-weekly. I will probably drop the weekly thing altogether at some point, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there, and also remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. Also, make sure to join the Tech Pills community at techpills.technology/community. You can find the link in the description, or you can use one of those links on the left side of the screen. And again, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.